Hello everyone, the time has finally come. The Record of Ragnarok anime has finally been released on Netflix, and I am here today to review Episode 1. You could probably also expect Episode 2 and likely 3 to be reviewed today. I'm not going to spend like 2 weeks watching these. I'm going to watch these episodes, and I'm going to record a review after them, and we'll see how much time it takes me to get through the whole season with that. Now, as some of you may know, Record of Ragnarok is a very important series to this channel because it's the first series I covered on this channel. It was the reason I started this channel, so it has a lot of meaning to me, so I am quite invested in this anime being good. Now that's the big question. Is it good? Well, let's find out. I'm going to be talking about these episodes in regards to a few aspects, the big ones being animation, direction, voice acting, and music. So to start off, animation, that was my biggest concern with this anime when the first trailer came out. A lot of it kind of seemed like almost slideshow presentation stuff, and I was a little worried. But as more trailers came out, they showed more actual animation, so my concerns were a little eased, and after watching the first episode, I can say the animation is pretty decent. Nothing super crazy, no like UFO table stuff, but it's not like the Seven Deadly Sins seasons that have come out recently. It's pretty alright. Some of it, at times, is a little stiff. You do have the occasional, like, basically still frame, but there is a pretty decent level of movement in quite a few scenes. It's actually kind of hilarious. The most well-animated thing in this episode is fucking Heimdall. Heimdall is the most dynamic thing in this entire episode, which is not a bad thing. I'm kind of glad that he's not just this sort of stiff object that occasionally spouts out narration. So that's pretty alright. We got a few other really good sort of pieces of animation. I think most of them were actually from Lubu, funnily enough. Most of the good animation has come from stuff I haven't really expected. Overall, it's nothing super crazy, but nothing that makes me want to gouge my eyes out. So, better than what I'd feared we'd get. Yeah. So, next thing is the direction. By direction, I mean sort of shot composition, how they edit scenes together onto the screen, because we do get a few examples of that, where you have multiple moving things happening on screen at the same time. It's just kind of divided into multiple parts on the screen. Most of that looks kind of meh. I wish they had maybe some kind of border, or like there was one with the reactions from the gods where they would put in one panel and then another and then another and then another instead of just having them all at the same time. Also, sometimes having them move in opposite directions look very weird. I don't know too much about that. That didn't look great. A lot of the shots were like shot for shot from the manga, especially with Heimdall and Lubu, funnily enough. Thor got a few. They did change some scenes from the manga. They took out Zeus killing his dragon, which is fine. It's like, whatever. That was a little extra. It was a little unnecessary. I think a lot of people thought that with the first chapter. In hindsight, I also think that with the first chapter just seems kind of not needed, a little excessively violent. That's probably why it got cut. And the other thing that they cut was Thor's original introduction with Incubus showing up. And I have a feeling the reason they did that was because Incubus pulls his dick out, tries to fucking rape Brynhild right on the spot. So I imagine whoever the animators had to talk to, I guess Netflix, they were like, yeah, we can't have it. Which, I mean, it's fine. Thor's original introduction isn't super important. If they're just going to cut things that aren't really essential to the plot, just kind of extra scenes that don't really contribute that much, that's fine. The original introduction with Thor is just meant to show Thor will fucking kill anyone that gets in front of him, and that Brynhild and Thor already know each other. Nothing super important. I wouldn't have minded having it in there. You probably could have changed it in such a way. I don't know, that may also be because of the gore. I mean, Incubus's entire upper body gets fucking obliterated. So, we haven't really gotten much into the fights so far, so I don't know what degree of censorship there's going to be. We're going to have to find out when we get there. Most of it isn't as bad as what happens to Incubus. It's not like a dude exploding and his insides going everywhere, for the most part. So we'll have to see what happens with that. For the most part, the voice acting is pretty good. I don't think there are any bad choices that I've noticed. Some of them are just kind of okay, or pretty good. I think Brynhild has a good choice for voice actor. Gull kind of surprised me because she doesn't sound as annoying as I've imagined her, which isn't necessarily bad because, well, I imagine a lot of people would end up not liking Gull if she had this super, like, high-pitched, screechy voice. So, having someone who sounds a little more normal voicing Gull is probably for the best. Odin's pretty decent. Zeus, pretty alright. I imagine... I don't remember the name of the voice actor, but I know he has Okuyasu's voice actor. I imagine when he starts getting really excited more often, we'll get a better idea of how he is as a voice actor. Shiva was good, Aphrodite was good. I don't think we heard Thor, or really Lubu. Yeah, they were all pretty decent. They were all pretty good. So, not really any major concerns with the voice acting, although I don't really care that much for the narrator. He's really just kind of average. He's just kind of meh. Don't care much for him. I get that Record of Ragnarok is like this fucking testosterone-fueled meathead showcase, in theory. But how do I put this? The narrator sounds too gruff, whereas a lot of the narration in Record of Ragnarok is actually kind of elegant. It's maybe my perception is being clouded by my enjoyment of the series and my knowledge of, like, everything in the manga so far. But I feel like the guy they have for the narrator is not really the best choice for some of the stuff that's going to be narrated. Personally, Hunter x Hunter narrator, way better. Also could have taken, like, a female narrator. You could have even had Brynhild be the narrator. I don't know how they would have wanted that to work. I assume these were decisions they discussed with the creators of the manga, so it was probably their decision to not have her narrate. So, narrator, probably the low point of the voice acting. Now the music. Most of the soundtrack's pretty unremarkable, to be honest. There weren't really any super amazing, examples of the soundtrack really taking over a scene and elevating it to a higher level. They did make a few good uses of not having any music at all. I generally like those. They had a few good ones right after Heimdall called in the round. There was no music. That was pretty good. However, I do really like the ending. The opening, not really my taste in music, but I really like the ending. I think that's really good. I think that really does a good job capturing some of the more somber parts of the mood of Record of Ragnarok. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of the ending. Now, we haven't gotten into the fights for real yet. We've just gotten to the start of Thor versus Lubu. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see how good the soundtrack is. I believe, if I remember correctly, when the anime was first revealed, they said the soundtrack was composed by the same guy who worked on some of the soundtrack for Naruto. And I haven't watched Naruto, but I've heard some of the soundtrack is pretty good. So, we'll see what happens with that. So with that, that is my review for episode 1 of Record of Ragnarok. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Record of Ragnarok chapter reviews every month, and since the anime is coming out, I'm going to be doing a few reviews every day. I'll have that wrapped up probably by the time the weekend's over. So you should subscribe so you don't miss any of those. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen and Kengan Omega, I do videos on those series as well. I also have a backup channel because I have 2 strikes on this one. That's linked in the description. You should go check that out. If you enjoy my videos and you want to keep tabs on me in case anything happens to this channel, if you enjoy discussing Record of Ragnarok with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. And since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons, Archerbear, CJ2K, Fuse, Neo, Dejon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, Moonshadow935, Rat, and our newest patron, Ryzen4K. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos or access to some extra content, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.